Today we're looking at external GPUs on a 2020 iMac. We're connecting it to the back of the iMac using the Thunderbolt 3 connector, and we're using a RTX 2070 with 8 gigabytes of RAM in an external enclosure made by Gigabyte, the Aorus Gaming Box 2070. Taking a look inside the machine, we are using Windows because there are drivers for the Nvidia GeForce. Mac OS has stopped supporting them, and there are no CUDA drivers anymore. So we can see that it's connected. We set the internal AMD display adapter to the basic display because without it, we weren't getting the performance monitors working. So you can see here we have the performance monitors. We can show the free RAM, the GPU utilization. Now let's take a look. We have 32 gigabytes memory. CPU is pretty low utilization right now because we're not doing anything. So let's go ahead and start. Now, in our previous video, we had installed the Windows subsystem for Linux and installed the AI components. So if you need to go back and look at that, I'll put a link. But to continue on now, starting the Windows subsystem and the Docker desktop, because that's where we're loading our web interface. We're using OpenWeb UI. Let that start. There we go. And what model should we try just to test this out? Using the ollama command, we're going to run llama 3.1, which is, was it like 4 or 5 gigabytes? If we take a look at our our memory, you can see the memory instantly goes up in utilization. The GPU also is using 6.2 gigabytes of RAM, so at least we know the GPU is in use. The prompt is ready to type something. Let's go ahead and go to our Open Web UI. And let's make sure we're on the right one, the 3.1. There we go. Let's give it a quick question. Take a look at the right side. There was a quick spike in the GPU, went to 100%, then back down. The response was pretty fast, so we know it's working. And I guess let's give it something a little more difficult. 10,000 word essay about Jackie Chan. Click, and it's responding way faster than a normal human speech response, so that's good. See, our GPU is close to 100% because the whole model has been loaded into RAM and the GPU memory. So remember, you do need system memory and GPU memory because the system has to keep track of everything while the GPU may be calculating parameters. So let's go out of this Llama 3.1 and stop it. Take a look at the GPU RAM on the right side when we stop the model, and it just drops, clears memory. Let's see, yep, nothing's running. We see that there's a 0.3 gigabytes in use, but that's nothing. GPU utilization has gone down. Let us run the larger model, the 3.3. Oh, look at that. It says it needs 37 gigs, but we only have 17. Why do we only have 17 when there's at least 32 gigs of RAM in here? Well, the Windows subsystem for Linux has a setting that automatically, I think no matter what your RAM is, it automatically sets only half the RAM size. So it's only 16 gigs RAM available and 4 gigs of swap file. So let's increase that. We only have 32 gigs of system RAM, so let's see, we're calculating the system RAM and the swap file. Swap file is the hard drive, and that's going to be the slowest part. So let's give it 30. 30 is kind of cutting it. Let's give it 29 because it needs some RAM for the system to run. And increase the swap file to 16 gigs. Anything that doesn't fit in RAM will be swapped to file, which is going to be really slow. It's going to try to use some of the 8 gig GPU memory, but it's not going to fit in there either. So we're going to see some swapping. So to do this, we'll have to actually restart the subsystem. So let's stop everything. I guess we don't have to stop it gracefully, but let's just go ahead and shut down the WSL and skip ahead. Okay, we got everything starting back up again. Let's load the 37 gigabyte Llama 3.3. See how long it takes to load. See, it's taking up a lot of our system memory. It's going as the high as it can go. The disk is starting to, well, right now the disk is reading, so it's not going to be thrashing yet, but it will soon. The GPU looks like it's slowly taking some memory. Right now it's only about 5 gigs. It's still loading, so it does take a while to load. Let's just skip ahead. Okay. Now that it's loaded, let's take a look at what the system's doing. Hard drive's calming down a little bit because it's finished loading. Memory is very full. The GPU has taken up 6.1 gigs, so it's using all the resources it can. Let's give it a question. Are you there? Let's see how long it takes. Now, in the model that fit in the GPU memory, it didn't take this long. Also, in the smaller models on regular memory, it doesn't take this long. But you can see the disk is starting to thrash because it has to read and write to the swap file. Yeah, that is going to take a long time. The GPU is underutilized right now because it's waiting on the hard drive. The CPU is also underutilized. It's taking that long to answer, are you there? So in our previous tests and other models, are you there was like in like 5 seconds or less. It's like a minute, couple minutes later, we skipped ahead. It's still thinking. And it finally answered about 3 minutes later, but it's still thinking. So every time it comes up with a word, it has to recalculate all the parameters and decide the next word. So if you look, the disk is still thrashing because it has to do everything again for the next word. So not sure how long we want to wait for this. I don't think very long. Skip ahead. So we've skipped ahead 2 minutes or so. So it's been like 4 to 5 minutes and it finally just gave an exclamation mark. Let's skip ahead. So we've skipped ahead 3 more minutes and it's still only on the third part of the answer. So let's just cancel that. And let's get out of this thing. So let's stop everything and we are going to switch over to a different, let's switch to eGPUs. I think we're done testing this one. We can see that it can run pretty quick if the model is loaded in memory. So you have to make sure you have a model that is going to fit in your 8 gigs, or at least the parameters will fit in your 8 gigs. Oh, that's the wrong command. Let's type the right shutdown command, which are 2 dashes. So the thing to understand about the AI models is um, the larger models and the smaller models, for simple answers or simple questions, they might just answer the same thing. It's for complicated or very topic-specific models or very complicated questions that you want to have larger models that have more parameters and more words and definitions built in. So anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to switch this 2070, which only has 8 gigs of RAM, with this 4090 with 24 gigs of RAM and run some of the same tests. So let's hot swap it by popping out the plug for the 2070 and plug in the 4090, and it takes a moment for it to recognize it. There it is, 4090. It's not quite ready yet, but it will be. If you take a look in the back here, you can see the 4090 is now plugged in to the same Thunderbolt 3 port on the iMac. And there it is, 24 gigs of RAM available. So let us start up our environment again. And let's see which model we should try. Okay, let's just try the large one. So once again, we don't have enough system RAM, so it might still be thrashing a little bit, but we have more GPU memory available. So I believe the way the system works is it will use up the available GPU RAM and split it between that and the system RAM with additional system RAM to monitor and hold the results. So being we have a lot more GPU memory, it might perform a lot better. Plus, the 4090 is just a lot faster than the 2070, regardless of the amount of RAM. So we've loaded it. We've skipped ahead, but we've loaded it. It takes the same amount of time to load, I think. But in asking the question, "Are you there?" where it took like 5, 6, 7 minutes before it even got like 3 words out. Let's see how long this takes. And we'll just wait for it. CPU is not. Oh no, the CPU is getting up there. The disk is thrashing, but I don't think it's thrashing as bad. Okay, the GPU is not doing not a lot yet, but we can see 22 gigabytes of the 24 taken up, so that's a lot better than the 8 we had earlier. Remember, this required like 37 gigs. Now, hopefully we won't have to wait 2 to 3 minutes for the first word to come out. Oh, it's been under a minute and the word came out. And it's still thinking, but that's a good sign. Looking at the CPU, CPU is much higher utilization. Oh, it's continuing, so that's good. It looks like it might have hit the parameters that are in the GPU. So that is way better than we had with the 2070 with 8 gigs of RAM. Now let's take a look at the Open Web UI and give it the 10,000 word essay on Jackie Chan. We didn't even try to give the 3.3 model this question on the 8 gigs of RAM because we know it would be too slow, but let's see what we get here. So this is not bad. It's responding slower, a little slower than normal human speech, but it is responding. So as a final test, let's just give it the small model, like the 4 or 5 gigabyte model, which will load all in memory. You can see the whole thing loaded in memory, 6.6 gigs of RAM in 24. And make sure we switch our Open Web UI to 3.1 before we ask it anything. Okay, same question. Let's see how fast it responds. Yeah, that's much faster. You can see the CPU is not that high, but the GPU is at almost 100%. So everything is being done pretty much in the GPU. So if you have an old iMac um, that has a Thunderbolt 3 port in this case, and you have access to eGPUs, depending on the model size you want to run, it might actually be worth it without having to buy a whole new computer. Let's take a look at the difference between the two eGPUs. The 2070 and the 4090, there's a big price difference. And plus this was the external version, so it came with the external enclosure. Take a look at the ranking, 67 to number 2 at the time of this writing. So if you can't get a 4090, anything from the 2070 or in between might actually be worth it if you just want to start looking into AI or start using it. This is not about training it, this is about using it. For training, we're going to try using these two eGPUs on Ubuntu on a 2013 iMac. So subscribe and stay tuned.